Have you ever found yourself struggling to find the right words when you pray? Maybe you're facing a crisis and feel too overwhelmed to even form a sentence to God. If so, you're not alone, and there's incredible news for you. In the first century, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to Christians in Rome that would forever change how we understand prayer. Paul, formerly a fierce persecutor of Christians, had become their greatest advocate after encountering Jesus on the Damascus Road. Now, as a seasoned missionary and teacher, he was addressing believers who lived in the heart of the Roman Empire, facing daily pressures and spiritual struggles. In Romans chapter 8, verses 26 and 27, Paul reveals something extraordinary about prayer. He writes, "In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God." Paul's teaching here is revolutionary. He's saying that when we can't find words, when we are too hurt, confused, or overwhelmed to pray eloquently, the Holy Spirit steps in. The Spirit doesn't just help us pray better, he actually prays for us with groans that words cannot express. Imagine this: you're sitting by a hospital bed, watching a loved one suffer, and you can't even form a prayer. Paul says the Spirit is right there, translating your heart's deepest longings into perfect communication with God the Father. The Spirit knows exactly what you need, even when you don't. This wasn't just theological theory for Paul. He'd experienced shipwrecks, beatings, and imprisonment. He knew what it meant to be speechless before God's throne. Yet he discovered that our weakness becomes the very place where God's strength shines brightest. The Greek word Paul uses for groans is stenagmos, which describes deep, inarticulate sounds of longing or distress. It's the same word used to describe creation itself groaning for redemption. The Spirit's intercession isn't pretty or polished. It's raw, real, and deeply personal. What makes this even more beautiful is that God the Father, who searches our hearts, perfectly understands the Spirit's intercession. There's no miscommunication in the Trinity. Your deepest needs, fears, and hopes are being perfectly translated and presented before God's throne. This means you never pray alone. When words fail, when faith feels weak, when circumstances seem impossible, the Spirit is actively advocating for you. Your stuttering prayers, your silent tears, your confused thoughts, they're all being transformed into perfect intercession. Paul's teaching reminds us that prayer isn't about eloquence or having all the answers. It's about showing up authentically before God, knowing that the Spirit fills in every gap.